Are you ready to become so angry? Hey yo everybody, it's Moonmage, trying to scheme on what will draw in viewers for my channel. People on the internet love, more than anything, to get mad about trivial things, especially in children's media. So I'm doing a ranking video because I know that when I see a ranking video, I'm just itching to scope it out and rile myself up because we all do. We love to do it to ourselves. So let's see if this works as planned. Without further ado, I will here be ranking the original 10 structure decks released for the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, kicking off from 2005, New Year's Day at that, through to January of 2007. How have I separated these 10 decks as the original OG from the others that came after? Well, a number of reasons. The first being the pure gut instinct that these 10 decks stuck out to me in my childhood with Yu-Gi-Oh! And I collected them all, but after the release of Machine Revolt in January 2007, I stopped noticing them so much appearing on shelves. It felt to me like those first 10 decks were the solidified first wave of releases. The second reason is a more logical extension of that first gut instinct, being that these decks all released within a few months of each other. At most, I think the longest gap was about 6 months, but between the 10th and the 11th structure deck was the longest gap yet of over 10 months. Then, if that wasn't enough for you, take a look at how Konami themselves decided to brand these little paper jollies. The first 10 decks have the card number starting with SD, followed by the respective number of 1 to 10. But Rise of the Dragon Lord, released in October 2007, scrapped the numerical trend for lettering corresponding to the name of the product, a custom which continued thereafter. Also, the box design took a mad overhaul compared to the very uniform design of the first 10. Okay, that's it, let's get to the fun bit. Just noticed I wasn't wearing my rings. What happened to all my swag? So, I've made a custom tier maker graph on here. There probably was one that existed already, but I'm very picky. So I just went and made my own, grabbed the 10 images of the first 10 structure deck covers, and you'll notice there's only 3 tiers in this. I put A, B, and F. Let's make that, change that color. That's a nasty green. Yeah, there we go. That's gross. Yeah, there we go. That's an F. As you can see, obviously, there's only 10 things in this whole tier maker list, so it felt silly to include more than 3 tiers. So it's either going to be great, alright, or it was garbage, and it was nothing to me. Keep in mind, this is going to be a more casual approach to ranking these 10 decks. Now, I know that they didn't really impact the meta of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitive scene all that much. None of them did, really, but just in their own right, how much I enjoyed them growing up will be the greater reflection. I'll probably also throw in some criticisms that I now know as an adult of how much some of these do suck dons. But I knew that even as a kid, so let's just get to it. Dragon's Roar, the first one that came out on New Year's Day in 2005, as I previously said, along with Zombie Madness, the second one. They both released together, almost as though they were trying to say that like these were like the counterparts. This was like the new Yugi and Kaiba. Dragons and zombies. I don't know why they went for those as though they were like opposing forces instead of dragons and spellcasters, you know. Not gonna be mad about it. We still got our own. Blue Eyes didn't even see any kind of appearance in these first 10 decks, so can't complain. But yeah, no, this featured around the Red Eyes. Let's have a look at over here, YugiOhCardGuide.com. Thanks very much. The boss monster in here was Red Eyes Darkness Dragon. Didn't care for him at all. Thought he was no good. Which is so underwhelming. It's the fact that he only has, I mean, his effect is pretty great, but bringing him out on the field by tributing Red Eyes, there's a common theme with the boss monsters in this deck having this recurring thing where you have to tribute this one specific monster. Sometimes it sucks, sometimes it's fine. In this case, sorry Dragon's Roar, I think you did dirt. Let's see how Zombie Madness did. So Vampire Genesis was the boss monster. Don't remember much of this, but right off the bat, 3000 attack for a boss monster. That's not bad. You do still have to tribute the Vampire Lord, though, from your field. Remove him from play. This guy right here, he did, I remember him showing up a lot. My first ever duel in, like, locals competitive, I dueled against a guy who had a vampire deck, and this was his boss monster, and this dude was, like, in his 20s. I fucking thrashed that dude so bad. I don't know how good his deck was. Clearly wasn't that good, because a 7-year-old managed to trash his ass so hard. And my dad had to pull me away from making too much fun of this guy who was clearly broken inside after his defeat. Had a couple of other ones like Ryukoki. Double Coston was a good card. I think I used that in my deck because you can use it for Dark Magician, 2 tribute Dark Monster, use it as 1 tribute. Not so good, not so hot in today's situation, but it's the Mystical Space Typhoon. It was just, this deck was, I put this deck in B. It wasn't terrible, but it just, I've never cared about zombies, so that might be my bias. Then Blaze of Destruction was the third one. That's an F. I really wanted this deck to do good, right? I love fire decks and all that bananas, but god, this deck didn't do it right in the slightest. Another note, so these came out in May. The fire and water deck came out at the same time. I don't think there was nearly enough equal field between these two decks for them to be competitors to the other, but let's have a look. This is a bloody level 9 monster. And it can't be special summoned, so when it's gone, it's gone. I hated that. As a kid, I hated that. I was like, I can't use Monster Reborn. What is this? But this monster just sucked ass. Remove 5 monsters from your graveyard. Destroy them or spell. Like, who cares? Who cares? Infernal Flame Emperor. And I can never tell if he was like some kind of like centaur thing, because is that like a 3rd and 4th leg back there? I don't care. Blazing Impachi was like an okay card, had 1850 attack, normal monster, but it wasn't enough. There was nothing going on here. Let me find him. Ultimate Baseball Kids. I remember thinking he was really good, but he's so vulnerable because of his 500 attack. There were so many monsters here that had no chance of staying on the field to do any lasting damage. Now, this deck had a lot of burn tactics. I get your joke, Konami. By reducing your opponent's life points through various means, but like it had nothing long-standing on it. There was no way that you could inflict this kind of damage in enough time that your opponent could just completely wipe you off the field with shitty 500 attack bloody monsters. And this guy who could attack your opponent's life directly. Yeah, could attack directly. 100 points, and then he gains 1,000 attacks, so you just have this 1,100 punching bag on the field. Like, it's just not worth it. None of these effects are worth it. Jar of Greed, why are you here? The camera's falling? Oh boy. We're good. I mean, Molten Destruction, there is this theme of field cards that increase a certain monster's attribute of a monster's attack by 500 and decrease their defense by 400. That wasn't such a bad thing at the time, so it's good that these were in here, but again, it just wasn't. There was no strategy here. There was nothing holding it together. So F it stays, even worse than Dragon's Roar. Dragon's Roar at least had something it was kind of building towards, but I hate that fire deck. And then we get to Fury from the Deep. Holy shit, man. This is the best one here. I don't know what happened. I don't know who did a whole tub of pills and designed this deck overnight with all this crazy stuff. But, man, this deck did crazy. I mean, this deck holds up now. I wouldn't say quite holds up in every kind of field, but God, it did mad. Part of the reason was that this boss monster... Actually, you can see it here. Send Umi on your side of the field's graveyard ditto. It has a crazy effect. So as soon as you bring it out, you can get rid of Umi, wipe the field, instantly 2,900 damage to your opponent because they have nothing to do. They've got rid of their hands. That was a crazy effect. What they didn't put on this card that they were meant to, back when it released, was that you have to tribute Leviathan Dragon Duelist right here. So this was yet again a case of having to tribute a specific monster to bring this guy out. That made the deck a lot less good because this boss monster was crazy overpowered when it released because no one knew that you had to do that. It didn't say it on the card, and I don't think there was a clarification on this for years to come. But even with that in mind, these like tactics, like where is it? Gravity Bind. Now a lot of spells and traps just throughout these 10 decks sucked balls. They would just weaker versions of things that had already been banned, like Harpy's Feather Duster and Monster Reborn, and they just weren't worth having in your deck. But this was more of a strategic trap, and things like this actually are worth keeping in the deck. Banning your level 4 monster or higher monsters from attacking, but also combining that with a Legendary Ocean. This card was crazy. It brings all of the water monster levels down by 1. So if you have level 4 water monsters, they can still attack because they're level 3. It just wound into a whole... This one was crazy. This one really impressed me as a kid. So top spot right there. Alright, so next up we have Structure Deck 5, Warrior's Triumph. I remember having fun with this one, but I don't remember it standing out to me much more than that. I just enjoyed the the art of all the cards in the deck, and just I like that the redid Celtic Guardian and Gaia the Fierce Knight. Not that they were good cards to begin with, or that it fixed them in any way, but it was nice to, you know, to just have them. Guilford the Legend, he was kind of cool. Can't be special summoned, but still, again, at least he doesn't require a specific monster on the field, whatever. Oh yeah, and there was this weird thing with equipped spell cards. So there's, where is he? He's in defense mode. There was, yeah, Geoffrey the Iron Knight, where when you put an equip card on him, you destroy it, it's gone. I didn't really get how that could be used strategically. They probably used something. Release Restraint, was that another one? Was another one? Because where is he? A lot of stuff that it's all coming back to me now. Here he is, Geoffrey the Swordmaster. I remember thinking this guy looked cool as hell. And again with equipped spells, destroy monster. Like, the problem with this is everyone hates equipped spells, as I've learned. So this deck kind of sucks by that effect. I don't know. It didn't stick out to me, but it wasn't bad, and I enjoyed it more than Zombie Madness. So Zombie Madness was probably a better deck overall, but I'm sorry. Sorry, I feel like I'm starting to rile up some emotions here now. We're on to number 6, Spellcaster's Judgment. Now you're going to think I'm going to put this an 8 here, because I'm a Dark Magician fanboy who loves the Spellcasters with every fibre of my being. No, I'm afraid not. No, I didn't do that. There we go. Still above Warrior's Triumph. Okay, so Spellcaster's Judgment, let's have a look at this. Once again, falls prey to... Oh, fuck. Once again falls prey to sacrifice this one specific monster that there's only one copy of in the deck to bring this guy out, and he can't be special summoned by other means, so if he's dead, he's dead. This is also where they introduced this artwork for the Dark Magician, I believe, and it only got reprinted in the Legendary decks, like, 10 or so years later. It's okay artwork, it's definitely not my favourite. I thought the kind of angling was kind of weird. I was like, why is his hand so big? Why is it so big? And the way that the tablet behind him is like tilted back, it wasn't my favourite. But it was cool, it was whatever. We're not here to talk about that. Dark Eradicator Warlock, I mean, it's a great effect that you inflict 1000 damage when you activate a normal spell, but why'd you restrict it to normal spells? You just made the card even worse yet again. It had a lot of interesting stuff going on. I mean, it had a Breaker in it, who was a great card. You know how much I love Breaker. So I can't say that it's like F tier. It had some good things in it. Dark Magic Attack was at least interesting. It had a lot of cool stuff going on with the spell counters and all that. Except the main boss monster doesn't have anything to do with spell counters. Why'd you do that? I mean, they fixed that with the 5Ds deck with Endymion the Master Magician, but this just is a crap boss monster for what would have otherwise been a pretty decent deck. So I'm going to put that on the top of the B tier. Lord of the Storm. As a plane, appropriately so. Lord of the Storm, I just don't care. I just really don't give a damn. This boss monster, I forgot what he does, because he does not stick out in my childhood. This was probably one of the last ones I got, just because I was like, there's nothing else to collect for Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's get this stupid fucking bird. Can't be special summoned. Bingo! Whizingo! Both players take 1,000 points. Why? I don't get... Okay, so... you know what, this one doesn't even, look at the harpies in it, like, why were these here? You had the harpies in the structure deck, but you didn't have blue eyes. Why did harpies get... It makes me mad to think about. Birdface. What kind of card name is that? I hate that guy too. Nah, this deck, this is the worst one so far. Even worse than Fire, because at least Fire was trying to do something. I think burn damage, like having a burn deck is at least an interesting thing. All around, I hate this one. But now, here's where you're going to get pretty mad at me. Because I think this deck's kind of cool. Alright, so Invincible Fortress. God, no one liked this deck. I kept hearing about how everyone hated this one. I first got this. This might be my bias, because my dad brought back a Japanese version of this deck from Japan, I think before it released over here, or did they release? I don't really know the schedule for the structure decks, but I had this in Japanese first, and I thought it was really cool, and I made up all the card effects for what they did, because obviously I couldn't fucking read Japanese, what could I? I made it like crazy, like anime antagonist, weird, Like, I was thinking back to, like, the Yu-Gi-Oh movie and how Kaiba had the deck destruction and it kept, like, leeching off of Yugi's deck. I thought that kind of, stuff was fun. So I just gave them all these, like, fun effects about how they did this crazy stuff, because I didn't know what many of these cards did. Ectoplasma, I really liked the card art for that. I was like,
this steals 1,000 of your life points every time you activate a card.
Just OP, things like that. I had a lot of fun. But going to the actual effects of what this deck actually did, I still think it's kind of interesting that it, heavily runs on the defensive. I know that if you have no decent offense or no quick way to whittle your opponent down, then having a defensive deck isn't a good strategy at all, because once they break through the defense, you're kind of boned. But with a bit of, moving around, I think this deck couldn't be that terrible. It was Guardian Sphinx. I mean, this guy is infuriating. And with the trap card that he actually appears on, Ordeal of a Traveler, God, I loved how infuriating these cards were together, and just the flip effects and you can flip these face down, you can't attack these guys, all that thing. I had a lot of fun with this one. I just thought it was really cool. I like the Sphinx cards. Come at me. It's good. So now we got the remaining two. Dinosaur's Rage, I obviously talked about that one in my first video because that was about the second dinosaur deck, which I guess tried to go back and amend how underwhelming this one was. Now, it didn't do so bad. It wasn't the worst deck in the world. It just, again, wasn't that interesting. It didn't really have much of a strategy to it. It was just dinosaurs and blind dinosaur support just thrown about with, no specific kind of build-up to it. It's just dinosaurs, kind of like the dragon deck. I thought cards like Seismic Shockwave were pretty cool though. Activate only when a dinosaur type monster is destroyed. You can lock 3 of your opponent's spell or trap zones so long as they're unused. And yeah, that was a really interesting effect. Obviously, you can just pop this right off the field with a Space Typhoon or anything of the sort, but having something like that in the early day of Yu-Gi-Oh! Locking you out of your 3 of technically 6 zones that you could fill out, that was really cool. You could lock them out of playing a field card, which also used to be a really big thing surrounding these decks and their strategies. I did really like that card. Superconductor Tyranno, although an underwhelming boss monster, he still had the crazy attack of 3,300, which beat out any boss monster in these series of decks, so you got to give him points for that. I will say, I'll put him there, and that's just because of Dark Eradicator Warlock. I hate you. And then there was Machine Revolt. Again, I don't think many people were impressed. So let's see. So this brought out all the ancient gears. My dad used to use this deck, and he kind of managed to beat my ass with it. Maybe because he was 30 and I was 8, but, still. I remember, was it Ancient Gear Soldier, who was a level 5? No. Was it Engineer? Yeah, it was. A level 5 monster with 1,500 attack. That made me really mad. And I think rightfully so, because his effect doesn't justify the fact that he needs a tribute to come out on the field. All these other things. So the field card was Ancient Gear, and that's not a field card. This deck didn't have a field card. Okay, never mind. But I thought the Ancient Gears, it wasn't anything crazy, but this, again, this deck at least had the goal to make an archetype strategy for it, instead of just being like, oh, it's just water or fire or dragons or guys. This was not just a machine deck, but it was the Ancient Gear machine deck. And I always thought the gadgets were really fun, even though they weren't very powerful, of course. They were just a fun little concept. That's not a gadget. Oh, but this guy's something to talk about as well, because it's still a mystery how this card has not been banned. Because you can definitely break that card if you know what you're doing. I will put him, I think, at the top of B. Definitely beats out all the others, just for having the cohesive kind of concept of the Ancient Gear monsters all wrapped up in there. And Limiter Removal was also a crazy powerful card, which I think was also in that deck. So that is my list. I'm going to keep it that way, because I think the way that looks right there looks like it's going to make so many people mad. And I love that. So this has been my official, the Moon Mage ranking of the first 10 Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG structure decks. I don't know if the attention that this video could get will be worth the self-esteem that I will lose through what people say to me for it. I like Invincible Fortress. I think it was fun, and I think Exod is cool. He's a beefy guy. I like beefy guys. So thanks so much for watching. Do please let me know what you think in the comments, but just try not to send me any death threats. I wish you all a fantastic day. Moon Mage out.